Good morning, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. We begin today with yet another mass shooting in America, yet again at a school where children showed up to learn and grow and instead wound up terrified, barricading their classroom doors or running for their lives. 17 students and educators were killed yesterday at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, and that number may yet rise. The latest in a shameful string of school shootings in our country.
In Florida, to buy a gun, you do not need a permit, you do not need a gun license, and once you buy it, you do not need to register it. You do not need a permit to carry a concealed rifle or shotgun. You can buy as many guns as you want at one time. I read something very powerful to me today. It was from the point of view of a teacher, and I quote, "When adults tell me I have the right to own a gun, all I can hear is, my right to own a gun outweighs your student's right to live. All I can hear is mine, 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 mine."
Tell these congressmen and lobbyists who infest that swamp you said you were going to drain, force these allegedly Christian men and women who stuff their pockets with money from the NRA year after year after year to do something now, not later.
People keep saying your thoughts and prayers and all these things, but it doesn't make a difference if nothing ever changes. This happens over and over again, and people are dying, and it seems like it doesn't matter because.
Since the time of the Founding Fathers and since they added the Second Amendment to the Constitution, our guns have developed at a rate that leaves me dizzy. The guns have changed and the laws have not.
He purchased this himself. He went into a gun store and was able to purchase this AR-15 on his own. We believe that it was done in the past year. And key here is that he passed the background check. Now, Don, what's interesting here is because he's 19, and so if he purchased this a year ago, let's say he was 18, that's perfectly legal. You can purchase this style of weapon at a firearms store at his age. What you can't purchase is a handgun because you have to be 21 to purchase a handgun. So it's kind of an interesting piece of detail here that there is nothing essentially preventing him from purchasing this weapon.
See, you have to be 21 to purchase a handgun, but only 18 for an assault-style weapon. That's
the federal law. Essentially, there was nothing preventing him, not his age, nothing in his background, from purchasing this.
That makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, definitely. Senator Rubio did not, as Cameron Kasky plainly put it, he asked if he would take the money, and Rubio danced around the question as politicians do. He just did not want to answer it, even though the crowd knew exactly what he was saying, that he will continue to take money from an organization that has been known to help in the aiding of killing innocent lives.
Sam, you know, the NRA is one powerful organization. You mentioned yesterday at that meeting with the president, Australia's experience after they had a horrific episode of gun violence. They banned semi-automatics and automatic weapons. And as you pointed out, there hasn't been a school shooting there since that happened. But how do you respond to those who say that just can't happen here in the United States?
I don't get how they could be so blind. I just don't understand. People are not coming into our school. We have people with mental illnesses in our school. They're not coming in with mental illnesses and killing us. They're coming in with guns and killing us. It's just plain and simple. I don't understand how these politicians who get paid to lead our country cannot see this.
I've never been to a school after a shooting like this where I've met so many students who are talking about issues of guns in this time when so many politicians are saying now is not the time to talk about it.
Everybody has done an amazing job responding to this. The Stoneman Douglas community, the Parkland community, everybody was an equal amount of supportive and grieving and inspired, and we're going to use this to try and make something better out of it.
Do you really think change is possible in terms of, for what the kind of change you want?
Everything I've heard where we can't do anything and this is just out of our hands is inevitable, I think that's a facade that the GOP is putting up. I think that's what they want us to think. I think that after every shooting, the NRA sends them a memo saying, send your thoughts and prayers, say let's not talk about it now, say this happens. This is the only country where this kind of thing happens. I've been hearing things from people, they don't have gun drills the way we do. We had to prepare extensively at Stoneman Douglas, and that shocked people. This is something that can be stopped.
You like to say this is a mental health issue, but one of your very first acts as president, Mr. Trump, was to actually roll back the regulations that were designed to keep firearms out of the hands of the mentally ill. You did that. Your party voted to repeal the mandates on coverage for mental health. So I agree this is a mental illness issue, because if you don't think we need to do something about it, you're obviously mentally ill.
But we need to pay attention to the fact that this isn't just a mental health issue. He wouldn't have harmed that many students with a knife!
You responded to a conservative pundit, is it Tommy Lahren? Tommy Lahren on Twitter?
Yeah.
She tweeted this. She said, can the left let the families grieve for even 24 hours before they push their anti-gun and anti-gun owner agenda? My goodness, this isn't about a gun. It's about another lunatic. Hashtag Florida shooting. And then you responded, you said, I was hiding in the closet for 2 hours. It was about guns. You weren't there. You don't know how it felt. Guns give these disgusting people the ability to kill other human beings. This is about guns, and this is about all the people who had their life abruptly ended because of guns. That was a very brave message.
And what they were able to find was really disturbing items on his social media pages. The items about guns, different things he talked about, killing law enforcement, and really concerning to them, and wondering, the police there wondering, why is it that when he expressed the words he used about killing, the pictures that he used of the weapons, why is it that no one went to police to report this?
Because Australia had one mass shooting in 1999 and Port Arthur massacre introduced gun safety, and they haven't had one since. Japan has never had a mass shooting. Canada has had 3, and the UK had 1, and they both introduced gun control.
If one illegal immigrant causes a car accident, we've got to build a wall to keep the rest of them out. Why are you looking for solutions to that problem and not this one? Every reasonable American, Republican or Democrat, knows that something has to be done, something, and we're not doing anything. 8 out of 10 Americans agree that a teenager shouldn't have an AR-15. So why does a teenager legally have an AR-15? Somewhere along the line, these guys forgot they work for us, not the NRA.
It's entirely premature to be discussing about legislative solutions, if any.
It's just not the time to dive into the politics and try to score political points.
I think anybody who would politicize this shooting should be ashamed of themselves.
This is not the time to have the discussion, and it's frankly, I think, insulting to the American public right now to try to politicize something.
The reaction of Democrats to any tragedy is to try to politicize it.
I'm more than happy to talk about this in a few days. Right now is not the time.
There's a time and place for a political debate, but now is the time to unite as a country.
This isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it.
Yeah, no, it isn't.
All the major law enforcement associations, they've come out against these assault weapons, especially these AR-15s, for years and years. And during the time that they were controlled or banned, violent gun crime went down 66%. So the assault weapons they're not the only issue here. There's many other issues involved, but they are one of the issues here. Mm-hmm. And I've seen his social media posts from 2 years ago, and he's posing with weapons, he's posing with knives, he's making threats. 219 followers, that's 219 chances that someone could have picked up the phone and made a phone call.
My entire career has been going from one of these shootings to the next of these shootings. It feels like it's one of the only constant things each year is that we're going to find ourselves here having this conversation. We were here in Vegas and in Sutherland Springs and in Charleston, right? And the list goes on, and it seems almost endless going back to Columbine. And the details are different in each of these cases, right? So in this specific case, it does seem, based on what we know so far, that there were some clear and obvious warning signs of who this person was, and perhaps that he might have been someone who was a risk. You think of other cases, Stephen Paddock in Vegas, who we still don't really have any explanation of why he had done this, and it seems, based on what we know, that it might have been difficult for someone to have spotted him beforehand. You know, you've been kind of getting at it through this conversation, that there are a clear common denominator here here. Certainly some element of mental illness, but also the access to these weapons, right? That we are the only country where this is routinely happening this way, where our children are being slaughtered.
How about we stop blaming the victims for something that was the shooter's fault? The fault of the people who let him buy the guns in the first place, those at the gun shows, the people who encouraged him to buy accessories for his guns to make them fully automatic, the people who didn't take them away from him when they knew that he expressed homicidal tendencies. And I am not talking about the FBI. I am talking about the people that he lived with. I'm talking about the neighbors who saw him outside holding guns. If the president wants to come up to me and tell me to my face that it was a terrible tragedy and how it should never have happened, and maintain telling us how nothing is going to be done about it, I'm going to happily ask him how much money he received from the National Rifle Association. $30 million! To every politician who is taking donations from the NRA, shame on you. Politicians who sit in their gilded House and Senate seats funded by the NRA telling us nothing could have ever been done to prevent this, we call BS. They say that tougher gun laws do not decrease gun violence. We call BS. They say a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. We call BS. They say guns are just tools like knives and are as dangerous as cars. We call BS. No, they say that no laws could have been able to prevent the hundreds of senseless tragedies that have occurred. We call BS. That us kids don't know what we're talking about, that we're too young to understand how the government works. We call BS. If you agree, register to vote. Contact your local congresspeople. Give them a piece of your mind.
So, you and I are now eye to eye, because I want to like you. Look at me and tell me guns were the factor in the hunting of our kids in this school this week. And look at me and tell me you accept it and you will work with us to do something about guns.
Fred, I'm not, first of all, let me explain what I said this week, and I'll repeat it. I'll repeat what I said. And what I said, and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to talk about guns, and we're going to talk about what I said this week. And here's what I said. I said that the problems that we are facing...
Let him speak. I think we need to hear it.
I'm saying that the problems that we're facing here today cannot be solved by gun laws alone. And I'm going to tell you what we've done already and what I hope we'll do moving forward.
Were guns the factor in the hunting of our kids?
Of course they were. And here's
it's
what
the weapon of choice. Can you say that?
Number one, Fred, I absolutely believe that in this country, if you are 18 years of age, you should not be able to buy a rifle, and I will support a law that takes that right away.
Fantastic.
I will support the banning of bump stocks, and I know that the president has ordered the attorney general to do it, and if he doesn't, we should do it by law. I will support changing our background system so that it includes more information than it includes now, and that all states across the country are required or incentivized to report all the information into it. And let me tell you what I've done already. Last year, when we came up with our budget in the Senate, I pushed for and got approved $50 million a year through the Sandy Hook Initiative to provide a threat assessment fund for all states to be able to stand up in each of the school districts a way to identify people who could potentially do this and get ahead of it before it happens. I support moving forward on that initiative and making it widely available for everyone around the country. Now, I think what you're asking about is the assault weapons ban.
Yes, sir.
So let me be honest with you about that one. If I believed that that law would have prevented this from happening, I would support it. But I want to explain to you why it would not.
Senator Rubio, my daughter running down the hallway, and Marjorie Stoneman
sir.
Douglas was shot in the back
Yes, sir.
with an assault weapon, the weapon of choice.
Yes, sir.
Okay? It is too easy to get. It is a weapon of war. The fact that you can't stand with everybody in this building and say that, I'm sorry.
Sir, I do believe what you're saying is true. I do believe what you're saying is true. I do believe what you're saying.
There have been at least 12 school shootings in America so far in 2018. It's February 15th. We're averaging one just about every 3 or 4 days. How we doing, America? Everyone okay with that? Apparently the answer is in fact yes, because we haven't done virtually anything to stop it. We haven't done virtually anything. We all know what is about to happen right now, don't we? We're going to say how sorry and shocked and sad we are, and then we're going to move on without doing anything. And then we'll express how sorry and shocked and sad we are at the next one, and the one after that. Does anyone really think that we are going to do anything after these mass murders? I don't. I don't believe that. I don't believe in a single one of these politicians. I don't believe any of them have the courage it takes to actually push through reform. Why? Because history. And let's face it, it's not all on them, because we, the people, are the ones who hire and fire these politicians. So if we don't get serious, neither will they. 5 years ago, I was live on the air and pregnant with my third child when 20 first graders were shot to death in school in Newtown, Connecticut. That was the one. That was the one where we all thought, now we will do something. Now we have to change. But we didn't. In fact, since Newtown, there have been nearly 300 school shootings in America, about one a week. If 20 dead first graders don't spur people to action, what will? Yes, there was an act signed into law by President Obama just about 15 months ago targeting mental health reforms. It pushes for early intervention for kids showing signs of mental illness. But guess what? It hasn't been funded by Congress. It's a beautiful piece of paper. I'm sure it's a great comfort to the folks in Florida today. We had a woman on this show just last week jumping up and down, a mother, trying to warn people that her own son is a potential danger. She's seen it. She said he's been killing animals, consuming dark and disturbing pornography, and no one will help her. She said their social worker dumped the family after learning how disturbed her son was. What could possibly go wrong? And then there is the truth that mental instability by itself is not a great predictor of a mass shooting. Most mentally ill people do not commit murder. So even if we fund the mental health reforms, how do we find the potentially deadly needles in these haystacks who are likely to blow? Well, we could start by paying attention to things like Facebook posts with ominous gun pictures, coupled with social alienation and other red flag warning signs. But then what? Then what? Are we really going to loosen the standards for involuntary commitment in this country? Even if we could pay for that, good luck convincing the ACLU that it's legal. And then there are the guns. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. No gun reforms are getting through. They're not. And most of the ones that will be proposed in the wake of this shooting will be utterly meaningless and wouldn't have even arguably prevented this killing. The NRA is too powerful. Our politicians are too weak, and the guns are too ubiquitous. Guess how many guns there are in America, do you know? Over 300 million. They say 6 to 10 million AR-15s, like the one reportedly used in Florida. So now we've seen it a million times. We're going to debate that gun. But any semi-automatic pistol can unleash carnage. There was no AR-15 at Virginia Tech, and that remains the worst school shooting in U.S. history. 32 dead. Nothing changed. Nothing.